Brennan Lee Mulligan runs multiple campaigns, improvises 80% of what happens, and somehow his games feel more structured than those of DMs who script everything. Meanwhile, you're stuck in the DM paradox. Either prep too much and you'll try to railroad players who will go off script, or prep too little and your session will feel hollow. But the good news is Brennan solved this. He preps using a very simple system he calls making toys, and in this video I will explain it to you, show you why it works, and it will change how you prep forever. So here's what confused me for the longest time. Brennan has said he works a lot for his games, but he has also mentioned in interviews that his prep and notes for his long-running home game used to be a giant Google Doc several hundred pages long with absolutely no structure whatsoever. Stat blocks, monsters, NPCs, maps, and names just there, with only a loose idea of what the people in those places are trying to do. So I kept thinking, this can't be it. The guy is smart, but come on. And I started to dig a little deeper because I wanted to understand how it works. Brennan uses this toy analogy to describe his approach to prep, and the more I think about it, the more I found the metaphor absolutely amazing. Because toys are modular, and that is the central idea here. What do I mean by that? Well, take a toy fire truck, for example. It doesn't care what story the kids invent with it. It has a set of characteristics, but it can work in a lot of games they'll create. The person who designed the toy had no idea how it was going to be used. They didn't know the kid who was going to end up playing with it. And yet, it works. Brennan uses a very similar approach. When he preps an NPC, for example, he defines their overall personality and motivation, but not what they will say in the third scene of the fourth session of his campaign. Therefore, when the players choose to interact with that NPC out of the blue, he doesn't have a script, but he doesn't need one. He knows the broad strokes of the NPC's personality and can deduce how they'd respond based on that, and act it out thanks to his improv background. I think a good way to look at this is like this. Most DMs prep like architects. They try to build those detailed plans, anticipating exactly how the players will move through space and how conversations will unfold. But a toy maker like Brennan just makes building blocks and then they dump them in a toy chest. And somehow it works better, which is offensive. I used to think so anyway. It shouldn't work. When I first started DMing, I tried prepping less. Most DMs have. And before it clicked, in my case, when I started to just prep less and improvise more, my games got worse instead of better. My sessions felt aimless and my NPCs like they were all some version of Bob the Innkeeper. So what makes Brennan's simple prep method different from just winging it? The answer is hiding somewhere most DMs never think about. And once you see it, you realize Brennan isn't actually prepping less at all. Your brain has severe limitations when it comes to holding information. Working memory, the mental space where you do real-time thinking, can only handle about 4 to 7 chunks of information simultaneously on a good day. This concept traces back to the research of a psychologist called George Miller in the 1950s. The exact number depends on various factors, but this core fact remains. Working memory is severely limited. It's the ceiling for what humans can reliably juggle in active memory at once. Now, please consider for 1 second the amount of things the average DM keeps struggling with. What just happened in the scene? What is each player currently doing? What do the NPCs know? Why don't they know? What's the current emotional tone? What are the upcoming threats? What's the weather like? Etc., etc. All of this, and somehow they need to make decisions about what happens next. 7 is just not a big enough number. Your working memory is already overloaded before you even start improvising anything new. And this is why just prepping less doesn't work. When you wing it, you're trying to create NPCs, invent locations, and design encounters all in real time, while managing everything else. Your cognitive capacity is maxed out, and that's why everything feels weirdly samey and shallow when you improvise without preparation. You literally don't have the mental bandwidth for depth because you might be very smart, but you're still a human, and you're using all your processing power just to keep up. Brennan's approach is different, though. Cognitive load theory, which comes from educational psychology research, identifies 3 types of mental load. Intrinsic load, which is the inherent difficulty of the task. Extraneous load, which is unnecessary information that doesn't help. And germane load, which is building useful mental frameworks. When you prep by writing detailed scene descriptions and dialogue, you're creating extraneous load. And then, when you play, you're trying to remember and retrieve specific text while trying to process what players do at the same time. Your brain has to search through written information and figure out how it applies to what's actually happening. That's two demanding tasks competing for the same limited working memory. Plus, it makes it harder to adapt when players go off script, which often leads to railroading. But when Brennan makes a toy NPC and just focuses on personality and motivation, he is doing something different. The information about the toy is moved into long-term memory as a pattern, not as text to retrieve. So when he starts playing, he's not searching for the right words he wrote. He's kind of generating responses based on an understanding of who this toy or person is, which he internalized. It becomes pattern recognition, which is largely automatic and a lot easier on working memory. So that's the first answer. Brennan's prep method isn't simpler. It's simply optimized for how human memory actually functions. He's strategically choosing what to preload into long-term memory so working memory stays available for real-time improvisation. But something still doesn't make sense. This explains efficiency, sure, why his brain doesn't get overwhelmed. But it doesn't explain creativity. Making sure your brain does not explode is a good thing, and it helps you not drown. But why does this method make your games better? Why do Brennan's improvised NPCs feel more alive than fully scripted ones? Well, it's because when you free up working memory, something else becomes possible. Something most DMs don't experience consistently. But before I go on, I want to share something with you. According to my analytics, many of you guys watch these videos but aren't subscribed to the channel yet. So I would like to make a deal with you, Warlock style. If you could do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button, I will work obsessively to make these videos better and better and better. I'm still a small channel, and it's hard to overstate how much this helps. A bigger channel means more reach, and ultimately more resources for me to help you guys have more fun playing this game we all love. Alright, so what does happen when you free up working memory? Well, let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt this at your table? A moment where DMing feels effortless. It's like time stops existing and ideas flow naturally. You don't have to think to give amazing descriptions, and your NPC voices just sound convincing. DMs do not have the monopoly on this feeling. It is called flow state, and musicians, athletes, and artists are all familiar with it. It's not magic or talent, but an actual documented psychological phenomenon. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, a Hungarian-American psychologist, spent a long time working on this concept. He found that entering flow requires 3 conditions: clear goals, immediate feedback, and challenge matching your skill level. Without all 3 present, you can't enter flow. But when they align, something you can actually measure happens to the brain. During flow, research shows the part of your brain that handles self-monitoring and evaluative judgment shows reduced activity. Essentially, you stop second-guessing yourself. And studies on flow states have found that creative problem-solving performance increases substantially during flow. It happens because you're making novel combinations between ideas without using the dreaded "is this good enough?" filter a lot of us are familiar with. So back to Brennan and his toys. Suddenly, it makes more sense. The 3 pillars are present here. We have clear goals, prepared scenarios with established NPCs pursuing goals that players can interact with, immediate feedback, player reactions, tell him instantly what's working and what isn't, and a balanced challenge. His toys or building blocks give him tools to respond with, so unexpected player actions feel manageable, not overwhelming. Let's compare with different approaches. When you overprep, players end up skipping your planned scenes, so there's no feedback loop connecting your preparation to their engagement, and flow, if you reached it, breaks. When you underprep, you're trying to create everything from scratch, so the challenge is too big, and flow just does not start. Brennan's method hits the sweet spot, and that's why this produces better creative output. Cognitive optimization makes it easier to enter flow state, and flow state is where that beautiful, inspiring creativity happens. But Brennan isn't a neuroscientist or a psychologist, and I seriously doubt he learned this from some textbook, which means he must have discovered this method doing tons of improv and just playing a lot. Which made me wonder, Did other successful DMs discover the same thing? Matt Mercer, Matthew Colville, Chris Perkins, or Edariad, for example, all advocate essentially for the same philosophy. Modular preparation is better than linear planning. Toys or building blocks, or however you want to call them, work better than rigid prep. But the interesting part is they all discovered this through different paths. Matt Mercer arrived there through extensive world building and production experience. He creates deep lore but relies on floating encounters to keep the game flexible. Matthew Colville came at it from a narrative design angle rather than following a script. He advises DMs to give villains clear goals and let the clock tick until the players intervene. Chris Perkins has decades of professional D&D design experience, and his approach is one-page prep notes with most content improvised. They have different backgrounds and training, but all reach the same core conclusion about how to prepare effectively. When multiple successful people in a craft arrive at similar solutions, it suggests one of two things. Either you're looking at something fundamental about the activity itself, or you're seeing what works get selected for and copied. And either way, it's worth paying attention to. In this case, it's the human cognitive limits meeting the requirements of real-time collaborative storytelling. Which means this isn't about being Brennan Lee Mulligan specifically. And that's great news, because it means the underlying principles can work for anyone, even if the professional improv training doesn't hurt. It's not about being some kind of D&D genius. So the question becomes, how do you actually implement this in your own games? Once you start thinking about prep in this way, things change. They did for me. You stop asking, how much should I prepare? And start asking, what kind of preparation will allow me to improvise? Start with Brennan's essential list. Stat blocks, maps, names, and a loose idea of what NPCs want. Pay special attention to what's missing from that list. Dialogue, plot beats, scene descriptions, and predetermined outcomes. Those aren't building blocks, but scripts, which constrain improvisation because they require you to steer towards specific content, aka railroad. Yeah, okay, but this is still broad. What's the first thing I do? Alright, fair enough. To make it stick, let me quickly walk you through a very concrete example and create a toy NPC together. Step 1. Ask yourself what I call the 2 core questions. First, what do they want and how do they pursue it? This is the engine of the character. The rest just flows from there. Let's say we're building Ophim Nor, a cartographer. What does he want? I think he wants to be recognized as the ultimate expert on the region's geography. He wants his maps to be the maps, those everyone uses. So how does he work toward that goal? I think Ophim is obsessive and verifies everything. He won't publish anything he hasn't personally investigated, which makes him insanely accurate, but also extremely slow. Step 2, we work on performance hooks. We need something that makes Ophim very easy to perform at our table. 2 things are enough: a physical detail and a speech pattern. Not a voice necessarily, but something to help us talk differently. So, for physical, I think Ophim's hands are always stained with ink, and he tends to always catch what he's looking at depending on where he is. It could be napkins, margins, even in the dirt with a stick. It adapts to any location. Speech-wise, he constantly corrects himself mid-sentence, even over tiny details. I was there 3 weeks ago. No, wait, 17 days. Or the distance is about 40 miles. Well, 38.3 if you take the ridge path. His need for precision is omnipresent, which makes him seem both knowledgeable and exhausting to talk to. Now, step 3. We need an active problem. We can't not have this. We need to give our NPC something happening right now. It's not a backstory or potential plot hooks. He is dealing with this problem this week, whether the PCs cross his path or not. In our example, I think Ophim just discovered that a rival cartographer they can't stand published a map of the region, of his region, the one he's been mapping out for 3 years but hasn't published yet because he wanted to verify just one more thing. The rival's map is about 80% accurate, which means it will probably become the standard. His life's work could be ruined. And voila! Our toy is ready to go and can work in many different situations.
players need a guide through the region, he really wants to prove his expertise. They mentioned the rivals map, he has strong opinions. They need cartography work, he's available but distracted by this problem. They have information about the northern routes, well, that's exactly what he needs, etc, etc. We didn't write dialogue or plan when he appears, but we can improvise him responding to anything because we've internalized his core properties.
Now, I want to be clear about something. I said there was no magic behind this, and it's true. But there is work. Brennan is a professional improviser with years of training, so you probably won't match his performance level immediately. But that's fine, you don't need to. The cognitive principles work at any skill level, though, like any skill, you'll get better at applying them with practice. You're not trying to be Brennan, but to prep like him, because it matches how your brain actually works. This is what he and a lot of other pro DMs seem to have figured out. The prep paradox isn't really a content problem at all, but a cognitive one. The Toy method isn't minimalist prep, it's optimized prep for human cognitive capabilities. And maybe the biggest contribution isn't even the technique, but the permission. The permission to prepare differently while understanding you're actually preparing better and to trust the process, even when it feels too simple.
If you want to start implementing this technique, I've created after the fall 15 morally gray NPCs using this exact template you just saw me fill out. Each one has the core questions answered, the performance hooks ready, and an active problem to drop into your game. Plus, it includes blank templates, so you can build your own using the same method.
You can get it by yourself, but it's also included in my Patreon, along with all my video scripts, free tools, and access to private channels on my Discord server to help you become a better DM. Your support truly means the world and allows me to keep making these videos, so links in the description if you want to check it out. Alright, great, but if other pro DMs also know about this, why do Brennan's games hit so much harder? Well, I think this has to do with something almost everyone overlooks. What if Brennan was not just a DM, but something else entirely? So click on this video next to find out what Brennan's secret is and how you can use it to become the best DM you can be.